Hi, today is not about drawing an artwork. Today it's about 10 things you need to know when using Affinity Designer. This list is both for beginners and intermediate users, and I hope you learn out of the 10 something new. Let's go for it. So the first thing is the 3 personas. Personas are working environments within Affinity Designer, and we have 3 of them. If you go to the upper left side of your software, you're going to find these 3 icons. The first one is the draw persona, and it means you're going to be working in vectors. So you will find all the tools corresponding to this vector environment, like for example the pen tool, the corner tool, the primitive shapes, and so on. The second one is the pixel persona. We're going to click, and as we click you're going to see all the side tools are going to change. Here we go, and now we have the corresponding tools to the bitmaps. Now for those of you who don't know the difference between a vector and a bitmap, and not to complicate things too much, I would say that a bitmap is a digital image composed of a matrix of dots. Each one of these dots is what we call a pixel. Now if I pick here the brush tool and I go like this, and I zoom in a little bit, you're gonna see each one of these little squares in here, that's a pixel. That means we're working with a bitmap. Also, if I want to scale it and compared to a vector, this is not going to get much better. I mean, it's gonna get worse. You're gonna ruin your image. So usually we say bitmaps are not scalable, whereas vectors are. So if I come here to the draw persona, grab the pen tool and draw this line, well, you can see clearly the difference between one and the other. This is crisp and this one is not. It's showing all the pixels. Also, if I want to scale this one, there's gonna be no problem. Like the quality is going to remain always. Even if I make it thicker, it always looks crisp and clear. So basically that would be the difference between working with one and the other. Now, the third persona is the export persona. Some people ask me, well, why do we have an export persona when we have the menu? We come here and we say export. So, okay, there is a difference. Exporting is going to allow me to export to all these formats, and note that it's amazing. Affinity Designer in this is just great. We even can export to PSD, things like that, so an import. So it's great. But the difference between this exporting from the menu and exporting in the export persona is that here we can slice our assets. This is very useful when you're designing for UI, user interface design, or you're doing assets for games, things like that. So basically it would be something like, okay, I want to export exactly this. And it creates this slice that I can rename and say the 3, that's the name for it. And I'm gonna say like, okay, I don't want the background to be exported, I just want this little bit to be exported. And that's in a nutshell, because it has many more options. Like for example, I can export to different sizes for retina and so on. So it's just, I'm gonna keep it just simple by saying that you can make slices here, and when you export through the menu exporting, you're gonna get all these options. Another one thing that it's interesting to know is that you can customize your toolbars. So maybe you're looking at your software and you don't see the same tools I have in my top toolbar or in the side toolbar. You just see different things. Like some people ask me, where did you get this little kitten from? Well, I'm gonna show you. So you come here and you click in Customize Tools. And as you can see here, this thing toggles, and you're gonna find here different tools that you can just tweak in different ways. For example, I may just want to align them in a different way, or just reset them to what they were at the very beginning, just like so. As you can see, my kitten has disappeared, but I want my kitten back. So I just drag and drop like that, and I choose the ones I want and I place them. And so if I don't want something because it's not useful for me, it's just as simple as making it disappear. And we have another option, which is this one, which corresponds to the top toolbar. And in this case, it's exactly the same. You see this little placeholder here, and I say like, oh, well, I'm missing whatever, and I just go and place it there. Oh no, I have it, duplicated. So I just go the same, drag and drop. Very interesting. So the next thing is going to be some shortcuts that I recommend using, because at the end of the day, you're going to be much faster, and overall, it just makes you more relaxed when you're working. So for example, you don't want to be going every time you need to zoom in. You don't want to be going to the side toolbar and click on the little magnifier. What you usually do is click Z to invoke it, and as you can see here, I have it, but there is more to it. Like for example, right now I have my canvas fitting in the screen, but I want it at 100% safe. So what am I going to do? It's clicking Command and 1. So I have 100% zoom view at the moment. If I click Command or Control, I guess would be in Windows, and number 2 in the keyboard, that's going to give me a 200%, and so on. Command 3, it's going to give me, I think it stops, yeah, exactly. So as you can see, from number 3, it's going to do a 400, and number 4 is going to do a 800, as you can see in there. And if I click back to Command 0, it's going to give me an image fitting the screen. So that's one of the ones I use a lot, and it makes my workflow much faster. Another one interesting is knowing the basic tools. Like for example, if I click in P, it's gonna give me the pen tool. If I click on A, it's gonna give me the note tool. If I click on V, and this one is very important because that's the one that is going to allow you to move things around. Like say for example, I just go like this. Sorry about this color. Okay. So now, for example, what do I do if I want to move this around? If I just drag, I'm gonna draw another square, and that's not what I want. So what I need to do to be fast is not going here and clicking on this move tool in the side tool. What I'm going to do to be fast is going to click in the V, and again I have it back and I can move things around. I hope you're not going blind by the colors. Anyway, I repeat, I'm gonna click now M to invoke the primitive shapes. Look in here that if I go clicking M again and again, it just goes up and down between these three ones, okay? 1, 2, and 3. If I want this one, I just have to click in the tool. But for the main ones, for the main shapes, which is the rectangle tool, the ellipse tool, and the rounded rectangle tool, you're gonna click on M. So I go like this, and now I want to move it, I click on V and I move it, okay? So those ones are also very important. And the last one I'm going to talk about is not a shortcut, but it's something I usually do a lot, which is if I have lots of objects in my canvas, I don't want to, because this is quite simple. This is just three shapes, and if I want to change the order of them, I just can go like this, and everything works out fine. No problem with it. But when things get complex, that's not the best way to go. So say for example, I want to place the green one behind the yellow, and I have lots of objects around. I can go through the layers panel, but sometimes it's so long, it's just like not easy. And in Affinity Designer, you cannot just right click and find the layer. So what I usually do, and much more than using these tools that allow you to arrange things on the canvas, what I usually do is I tend to Command X and then just click on the shape and the object that I want to be working about, like be it I want to place it behind or in front. Now I paste it, and now I just have everything localized in my layers panel, and I can go up and down. I just clipped it. So I can just go like this and place things easily, okay? So that's something I do a lot. It's just I click on the thing, on the shape, on the object, and I cut it, and then I find my way, like, oh yeah, I want to place it on top of this one. And that's the way I do it, instead of using so much these ones. But that's my personal choice. I tell you, when things are really complicated, this is something that makes me go faster. Another one thing beginners need to know is that, as we said before, we can work with vectors and we can work with bitmaps in Affinity Designer, but you are not constrained to work one or the other. You can mix them. So I'm going to show you, for example, this project I was doing, and as you can see here, I have this kind of like a orange, or I tried at least. And the way I built this, the way I painted this was just mixing vectors and bitmaps. So say, for example, I did the orange itself, the fruits, with a circle, and then I painted over it. So I'm gonna show you this one here. Now I cut it and I paste it. See all this? This is what I painted. These are bitmaps, okay? What I did is just I masked it inside the orange, the circle I mean, just to build something like so. And I kept painting. So in this way, I just take the best of both of the tools. I just come here, I grab my, say, brush, and I paint nothing because I have no color set. But if I set a color, for example this one, and I just mask it, I mask it like this one, I just can paint and mix both of them. I just didn't choose the best of the colors to show you here, but this is the idea. Also, I wanted to say that you can, of course, erase and use all the tools you have at hand in order to create your artwork. And that's another interesting thing you beginners need to know. Storing 1,000 files for your projects, it's over with the snapshots, which is a feature that Affinity Designer brings to the table, and it's amazing because it's over with the latest file, latest version, good one, the best, number one, the best number two, and so on. So if you don't see in your panels, you come to View, down to Studio, and Snapshots. You get this panel here, and I'll just say you're working in your wonderful project and you like it the way it is, but you want to keep going, being sure that if you just ruin things, you're going to have the possibility of coming back. So that's basically what this snapshot is going to be doing. So we take a snapshot and we name it version 1 or whatever you need, and you have it here. So we keep working now, and I just, add this and that, and I add some whatever and this, and now I keep it. I'm happy with this thing I'm doing, and I just want to keep a version of it. So I take a second snapshot. So I have my second version, and now I just go like snap to whatever shots, and I keep going. I just keep working, and at some point I say like, oh my god, I love it. So I keep a version 3. And all of a sudden I just decide that I want to check how it was before to compare. So all that I have to do is click on version 1, for example, which is the original one, and click in this first button, restore snapshot, and I go back to square one, say like, I still have the possibility of saying like, okay, I liked it better before, or I liked it better when it was like this. So basically what it's doing is just saving your versions in the same file, within the same file, instead of having, as I said, 1,000 versions of the same project. And this is amazing. I love it. Another one interesting thing to know, it's about the destructive and non-destructive operations. For the ones that don't know yet what are operations, well, they are placed in here. At least they are. I don't know if they are by default placed there. If not, watch the beginning of the tutorial of this video and you will see how to place them in there and find them. So what these operations do, I'm gonna just show you here. I have my circle and my rectangle. What these operations do is just they allow you to combine, divide, subtract different shapes. Like for example, I just have these two layers and I click add. So both of them became one, as you can see in here. Let's go back and show you, for example, subtract. So what it does, the one that is placed on top, as you can see in here, is gonna cut over the other, okay? Next one is gonna be intersect, so they get intersected. This one divides, okay? So you cannot see it unless I just go like this, and you're just kind of like cropping, okay? And the last one would be this one, which is, let's just go back totally and I see it better. Just grab the two of them, and what we do here is combining both of them, okay? So what I wanted to say is that by default Affinity Designer is going to, out of these two shapes, if we click for example subtract, it's going to create one, okay? This is called destructive Boolean operation. What you need to know is that there's no going back from here. I mean, if you're drawing whatever the thing is and you apply destructive operations, this is what you have. There's no way back. But there's still another one possibility, which would be clicking on both, and before applying the operation you click Alt. So for example, if now I just go and apply a subtract, you see the same shape we saw before, but right now you see here this arrow. That means it's keeping both of the shapes in such a way that if I just, go like, okay, this is not what I wanted. I want to tweak it. I want to, for example, make it like, different. See? Move it around, whatever. Or I just simply want to do it different. I want to change this shape and use another one, like this one. Okay? There's always going back with this way. Okay? So again, I click Alt and then apply the Boolean, like so. Okay? So just so you know, we have destructive by default and non-destructive by clicking Alt. Another one thing that may help you a lot when drawing, it's understanding primitive shapes. Primitives are found in the side toolbar here. You have all of them. Also these three are primitives, and I mean at the beginning you're gonna have any of these shapes like I have in here, for example. Okay, so if you click A, you're gonna see this little orange dot in here. That it's indicating that you can start tweaking your shape in such a way that it's gonna give you a very different result. For example, something like this one, something like this. I mean, I think it's worth that you just, go and play around with them, because you're gonna get, results that maybe you don't expect. These shapes are not there for you just to place them and say like, oh yeah, I have a pre-made cog or a moon or a crescent or whatever. That's not the aim of these ones. I mean, you can use them for that, but then you can tweak them, and that's the beauty of them. Like for example, I did this tutorial, the one with the retro wave grid, and this guy was asking me how can I do this within Affinity Designer, because it has no perspective tool, and because I know these shapes, because I work with them and I've used them many times, I got to this conclusion. It's like a workaround, but it really works well. So I went like this, and I went like this, and I put 18. Even though you can go up to 48 here, you can increase them much more, like say for example 200. As you can, you see nothing because I need to put some color. Well, a ver, let's just make it a little bit smaller so you can really see it better. So as I was saying, this allows you to just start with the shape and then just get to a very different shape that is going to boost your workflow, and it's gonna make things much easier for you. For example, I use this shape a lot to draw alloys. Say you're drawing a wheel for a bicycle, and of course I'm not gonna go like this and say like, oh yeah, 1 and then 2, and then maybe I control J and just go like this and move it. I don't know, I mean, that would be just horrible. That's not the way you work. You want just to find the way that allows you to arrive in an effective and perfect, with precision and all that way, but also this is how everything, it's faster and it's much more precise than doing it by hand. So it's good that you go here and start playing around with the primitives and just find out about all they have to offer, because I tell you, it's really worth. Another interesting concept is the difference between masking versus clipping. Some people just get a little bit confused between these two concepts. They are really useful, both of them. So I'm going to show you here. If I want to mask, for example, in Affinity Designer, there are two ways. First off, we're going to go with the simple one, which is I trace this line and I want to mask it inside this text. So the only thing I have to do is just come like this, and be careful, this blue line has to be like so and not like so, which would place it just below it. So like this gets clipped. This is one of the ways you can clip inside. There's another way, which would be like what I call direct clipping. So you select your object, in this case this text, and you click in here, insert it inside selection. You click in there. Now you can just go and paint, because everything is going to be inside the boundaries. So really nice. And this is masking. Now we're going to clip. When you're clipping, you are positioning one object inside another. So the parent, which would be this one, the text in this case, it's gonna become like the boundaries for the child object, say. So we select this text, and now we trace a line like so. And now you remember what we did before? We were just placing it below the layer, as we saw. In this case, what we want to do is just placing it beside, like this. And now you see the effect. So this object, now it's clipped. You can just move it along and reveal the parts that you need to reveal. Okay, so this is basically the difference. It's two effects that I really use a lot, and anyone using these illustrating packages, because it's gonna give you lots of solutions for your drawings. So this is an interesting one too. Some people don't really know how to cut along a shape with no straight lines, because with the straight lines it's quite easy with the divide we saw in here. So we don't have a knife in Affinity Designer like we used to have, for example, in Adobe Fireworks, where you would take it and just go like this, and that was two pieces, because instead of a brush it was a knife, we had a knife. So we don't have such a thing here, but it's not very difficult to achieve the same result. So, well, first off, if I want to just cut this angle, this corner here, well, I could just go like this, something like this, and divide with the booleans, and now I have this and that, and I made this cut. There are other ways to achieve the same thing, but this is not what we're looking for. What I'm looking for here is just to do as I said, something like very curvy, like not straight line. So the way to do that is quite easy. Oh, sorry, this is not this one. So say I want to cut like this shape. I just close my shape like this, okay? And now I select this one. So I have both of them selected, and I divide, okay? In such a way that now I have this, and I have also this one. The only thing left for me to do is just copy and paste the style. But this is not always a good solution because, well, what if I have, say, let's get rid of this. What if I have, say, let's just draw a pattern here, okay? Something like that. And mask it inside. And now I want to just cut this. And I go and proceed the same way, say like this, okay? And now I select my shape and select this. I'm gonna put it outside, select this and that, and I divide. And yeah, well, it cuts the shape, but I lost the pattern. And now if I go like this and copy and paste the style, I'm just not having what I want. So that's not the solution if you have something more complex than a solid shape. In this case, well, what I usually do is use this kind of like a workaround. Say I want to cut this, okay, like this. I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna give it a solid color, and selecting both of them, I'm going to duplicate. Gonna put them there. I'm gonna go like this. Okay, so what I want to do with the first part is subtract. Okay, so I have this bit in here, and with the second part I'm gonna make an intersect, okay, like this. So in this case I just cut my shape with no straight lines, just I chose where to cut, how to cut, and I keep the pattern. It's like a nice workaround using the booleans, okay? So that's the cropping without a knife in this case. And the last thing I would like to know, if I was, not using them already, it would be knowing about assets and storing assets. So assets are exactly that, objects that you draw and you can store in Affinity Designer to use in every project. So now, for example, well, if you don't have the panel here, come to View, Studio, Assets. We've seen this in one of my tutorials, the one where I was building this spaceship. So the thing is that now I want to say, come here and create a new category. So I draw this, and I draw this, and I draw this. I change some colors, something like this, just to give it. Okay, so I have these three elements, and now I go and create a new category. I call it shapes, for example. Okay, I can also rename the category super shapes, something like this, shapers. Well, now important. If you can tell here, we have this area which is darker. I drag and drop like this, and my asset, it's included in the library, okay? Just be careful, because if you go like this, nothing's gonna happen. You have to be in this area that is a little bit darker, okay? Now you can rename your asset, okay, like so, and like so. Perfect, and now you have it in your categories, okay? So if it happens that I open a new document, I can just reuse them as many times as I want. Assets are amazing, so use them. Okay, and so summing up, this is the 10 points of things, some of the many things I would really like to know if I didn't. And well, I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something from this. Please, if you like it, subscribe, like, comment, whatever. If you have any doubts, just ask me, and see you soon. Bye.